Hello, good afternoon, good morning when it airs, I suppose, and welcome to Run It Back. We are into episode number 36 today. I always start the same, so I will start the same. First of all, I'm Menelik Fernandez, and we've got my daughter, London, just appearing and disappearing in the frame here. So I'm your host, Menelik Fernandez. As I said, the premise of Run It Back is basically always the same. We take teams that have played previously, and we run it back, so to speak, where we just discuss things in the game that worked, things in the game that didn't work, what we would do differently, how we prepared, talk about matchups, talk about screen coverages, all that fun stuff that coaches are into. Today, we are talking specifically about some women's basketball at the D2 level. We're running back the game from February 12th, 2020, so about a year ago now. It's Post versus Dominican. And today, we are most fortunate, as we have been in many of these episodes, to have one of the coaches from one of the teams in question join us. So with us today, we have the head coach of Post, Jon Plefka, joining us. Jon, allow me to try and do you some justice with a bit of an introduction here.
Sure.
Jon is going into his 6th year at Post. He's been both an assistant and a head coach there. He is somebody who has been in the past at the Parisi Speed School as a performance coach. He's been there for 9 years. The Diamond Kids Academy lead instructor since 2008. New Britain High School, he was a head coach for 2 years. He's been a head varsity coach at Middleton High School. He's also been on the boys' side as a head coach at CREC for 1 year. It's also worth noting that Jon was a professional pitcher for various organizations, for St. Paul, Sioux City, El Paso, Cincilero, Bridgeport, and the LA Angels. And Jon also played basketball at the college level, both at Texas Tech for Bobby Knight, Santa Fe Community College, and James Madison. So we are very fortunate to have somebody who I'd like to say that I'm happy to call a friend. I've been hanging out with, discussing various things with throughout the pandemic with, and I'm really happy to have you here, Jon. It's awesome. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's a great thing. Run it back, being the 36th one. I know Adam's next week. I saw that, a little precursor.
There you go. Thank you for that.
I don't know if I can upstage Adam, but just so thankful to be here and thankful for everyone to be on as well.
Appreciate you, sir. So going to the game, we always sort of start the same way. Let's talk a little bit about the preparation process for this game. I'll give anybody who's listening or watching at a later date just a little bit of background. You did play Dominican previous in the season. You played them on January 21st. Thank you. That was a loss for you guys. And then you're coming off of a loss from Jefferson, which was 4 days before. So there's 4 days between the game. Talk about your process. What are you doing? How many games out are you watching? What are you watching for? Do you give more weight to the previous matchup versus other games? What's in it for you guys? What are you doing?
Yeah, Dominican, they're one of our rivals within our Northern Division. So as you mentioned too, Jefferson, they actually won our conference that this year. I mean, they've won it 2 years in a row. So this was their second time, which is a big accomplishment for them. But for us in preparation, we played Jefferson on a Saturday, and this game was on a Wednesday. Our off day would always be Sunday. So our preparation for me was after the Jefferson game. Game was at 1. I do remember, since we lost that game at home, it was a rough night. But I moved right on because the scout was mine for Dominican the next game. And once again, with Dominican being in our Northern Division, we're pretty much 1-2 that past season. So that was where our mindset was. It was a huge game for us because if we did win, I think we'd have a 2-game buffer, so to speak. So that was something that was really on our minds. And especially after a loss, I think you kind of hone in a little bit more, or that's just me, and really lock down on what we need to do to be successful in this next game.
So are you like film wise, what are you doing? Are you spending more time watching the game that you played them previously? Are you going through 3, 4, 5 of their games in between that time period? And then what specifically are you dialing in on? Are you looking at matchups? Are you looking at sets, ATOs, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, what I like to do, especially with our staff, we'll watch, I would say 3 to 4 games prior, just to see how they're, going about their business, so to speak, especially playing about a month earlier. A lot of things can change. I know whether it's injuries, whether it's philosophies. A lot of our teams in our conference, they'll flip the switch. They'll go from a zone to a man team if that's what needs to be done in order to win. I think that's across the board and many different universities as well. So for us in that, our preparation is the 3 to 4 games, but also we have to watch that last game. That's
Right.
something that's huge to really see what they did successfully against us, how we were successful against them, and then kind of finding, kind of tips and tricks to kind of take advantage of them this next time coming forward.
Like it. So with your staff, do you do it in the format where it's like this assistant will get this game, this assistant will get that game, or is it in the format that everybody is kind of collaborative on everything? And if it's more of the former, where it's like one coach gets one game, one coach gets another type deal,
right?
How is that then presented? Do they come to you first and then you go to the team, or like is everybody just kind of getting it from that one coach?
Yeah, so we organize it early on in the season. So I had 2 assistants last year. One is part-time and one would be our volunteer. So they do the scouts together, just
Right.
because, especially too, I always feel badly because they have separate jobs as well. So I don't want to inundate them with their own scout. I know they're fully willing to do it, but that's a lot of work to do as well as working another job. So we'll split it up right in the beginning of the season. I so happen to have Dominican. They would have whoever it was after the fact. So that's kind of how we did it. I think it's pretty successful too for us. And even though they're doing the scout, I'm still preparing as well. So I'm not trying to step on their toes, but I'm trying to add information that they may not see as well. But how we kind of process that and how we give it to our athletes, they'll give me the scout prior. So we'll go over it. We'll see if there's certain information that they added that I haven't seen or vice versa. And then they will communicate with each of the student athletes first, to kind of get in their ear a little bit, get them the proper information, and then we'll bring it together as a team setting. So just kind of prepping in a different way. Once again, I think that's helped us because they can now have a familiarity with it before we go in that team setting, which can be overwhelming at times.
Yeah, I agree. And it's good too, because like in my experience, I'm in a similar type situation where like my assistants do work other jobs, and you don't want to ask too much from them. I understand. But it's also like for me, I'm going to watch the games myself and I'm going to put together something myself, even if it's their scout.
Right.
Because there might be certain things that you want to focus in on, and they don't know what that is unless you present that to them.
Exactly.
So when you go into that meeting, going from more general to more specific, what did you guys really identify for this game as your advantages? Were you focused on, the sets like I mentioned, or were you focused more on personnel? Were you giving individual clips or team clips? Like how did that work for you when you actually went to your team?
Right. So with first and foremost, the first game that we played, they ran a different option or kind of an action that kind of confused us a little bit within our zone. And I do this because it's not a typical zone. If you saw it, it's a little bit of a hybrid, which we'll see on video. So I think that was first and foremost. I thought we did okay with the adjustment mid-game, the first game, but it was something so foreign to us because they've never ran it before, which is, we don't run a typical zone. So of course it's going to be foreign, but that was first and foremost, that action. But personnel wise, number 15 just killed us the first game. 5'9", 5'10", athletic post player who we dare to shoot from the mid range. And she knocked down a couple wide open jumpers, but a super athlete, especially at our level. So I think personnel was very, very important. But that set was first and foremost in our mind. They're like, we need to go over this as much as possible with our scout team and really to kind of reenact exactly what they're doing so that when they do it, hopefully that's what we were preparing for, which inevitably they did, we'll be right ahead of the curve for them.
Like that. So what about like just overall concepts in terms of, you know, like the way you play screens or how many people to the glass or
Sure.
pace of play that you want to do,
Mhm.
what would those generally be for you, and how, if at all, did you adjust them for this specific game?
Sure. So when we run that kind of hybrid that we do have, we go over the top every screen.
Right.
The reason why we do that is we're trying to eliminate every 3-point opportunity possible. So that's why we run this hybrid zone. Once again, when this came about and how we've been doing this for the past couple of years, last year was probably the most we've done it. I'm not big into gadgets. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'm not that person. If I can play aggressive man to man, no middle all day long, we'll do that. And we do run man out of bounds. But just with the personnel that we had, it wasn't feasible, unfortunately. And we had to make a decision. What do we do? And we came across this zone and added some different principles to it and really had a lot of success. But going over the top is first and foremost. If they are going to take a three, we run out at those shoes. We run past them. And I know it's a crazy philosophy. Some don't like it, some do. But at our level, for them to reset, even shot fake and go, is very difficult for them to be successful with consistently, that is. So if they do a shot fake, one dribble pull up in the mid range, more power to you. We'll take those all day over a wide open three or even just a semi contested three. So that's where we are in regards to pick and rolls. If we do play our man, we switch 1 through 5.
Right.
Doesn't matter if we have a liability at the 5 position. If we do see an opportunity that they're taking advantage of, we'll take out our 5 and we'll adjust accordingly. But that made it easier for us, especially with the philosophy of the hybrid zone, for our athletes not to be too confused. But also, too, they knew automatic switch. And when in doubt, keep them in front of you and make them shoot over you. That's really it. Contest that, and then we'll play our odds that way.
Like it. So with this particular game, did you change any of those philosophies at all? It looks like from what I watched, that's pretty much what I saw happen. So
yes, we didn't know. I think we stayed with our same philosophy. I believe the first game we played against them, they didn't score many points. So I know they had a lot of opportunities that were unsuccessful, but I think our defense really caused that to occur more so than them not taking advantage of. And maybe that's just me saying that, but they did have some opportunities where I'm like, wow, if they made that, we were
right there. I like it.
we were in big trouble. But no, I don't think we made too many adjustments. Because once again, we want to accentuate our strengths as much as possible. And this late in the season, if you're not in shape, it's over. I mean, that's something that everyone knows. So we were in shape, we were ready to go, and now it's really just executing our defense, executing our offense, especially transition. I know our spacing was really, really good in transition this game. So once again, not many adjustments per se, other than just that action that they ran and try to hone in on that.
So I know with this game, for anybody listening, you did end up winning the game, but I know the kind of gentleman that you are, preparing for this show, you obviously went back and took a look at your scout, took a look at the game again. Is there anything in your mind that maybe you omitted in the scouting process, or that you look at from the scouting process that you'd be like, no, I don't think we did that right. I would do it this way if we were doing it again? Or do you think just, basically it was pretty much on the money and it was just a matter of coming down to execution all the way through?
Yeah, I think our offense got a little stagnant in various times of the game. I think we did have a few out of bounds plays that we kind of snuck in that they didn't see. One, I think it ended I'm trying to think in my mind, the third quarter, where it's just, I think I saw it on TV or something. It was just we had a 4 high set, and it literally was.
Got it, actually. Yeah, it's one of the ones that pulled.
And it's so simplistic, but I'm like, you know what? I think we can sneak this in as long as we make a great pass from under the hoop, boom, lob it over to our arguably best 3-point shooter, best player, and knock down a 3 to kind of sway the momentum ending a quarter. I think that really helped us too, especially in quarters. That's so important for us. And we've had so much trouble in the past ending quarters with the momentum. Now, of course, there's times where we may not have that opportunity, but 2-for-1s, or whether it's us getting the advantage, that's so very important. We do stress that day in and day out in our practices. So I wouldn't say there's too much in my mind that I can recall. But that was something that was really, really important for me.
So I'm going to take this opportunity to do two quick shameless plugs. One, a former guest on this show, TJ Saint, actually does a really, really interesting study about picking up an extra possession at the end of every quarter or the end of every half throughout the season, based upon like adding in a foul to gain the extra possession, and then actually taking, he takes the points per possession gained and subtracts the points per possession lost. And it's just like a hypothetical study. And to me, he really convinced me that I should probably be fouling at the end of every quarter to pick up an extra possession. It was just unbelievable when you look at the math in the study. So shout out to TJ for that. And then the other thing that I'm going to jump in here and say is that set that you're talking about, I'm actually going to add in. So I've started a new Twitter that's called Hoop Blobs, and it's all just baseline out of bounds. So I'll put that in the description if anybody is interested later on. But that's a great set that, like you said, you just stole one, simplistic, easy. I'm going to throw it up in there for you guys. Just before we move into film, I've got a couple in-game questions. So taking your scout, playing the game, you guys play quarters.
Yes.
What, if any, adjustments did you really notice by the other coach that maybe stood out? And then the other big question that I ask is usually relative to halftime, but because you play quarters similar to us, what are you sort of keeping track of on the bench, and how pertinent is that to your decision-making process about making adjustments in game?
Right. I don't think we don't really stat anything out of the ordinary. Possibly this year we were going to do a little bit more, but one big thing, as you mentioned before talking about going over the top on pick and rolls or screen actions, for our rebounding, we crash all 5 at all times.
Okay.
And now, in essence, it never really happens, but it's more, for me, it's the mindset for our athletes that's their focus. So we need to crash the boards. And last year, thankfully, we led the country in rebound margin. I think like 16 or 17 rebounds a game. We're out rebounding teams.
Right.
And that's in rebounding, as you know, it's a skill, but it's also reactionary. So there are different tips and tricks that we show our student athletes to really take advantage of opportunities. And that's something that's truly helped us. So on the bench, like I literally look for offensive boards because we're trying to take additional possessions. And I think that helps our offense, because even though we were solid offensively, we weren't as efficient as I thought we could have been.
Right.
So getting extra opportunities on the O boards, even kickouts from those, not just jacking a shot up and missing the side of the backboard if need be, it has really helped us in creating that extra couple points a game. And you win by 2-4 points, man, that could be an opportunity where you get an extra O board, bam, there's your 2 points, there's your another 2 points, and that's the difference between winning and losing. So that's a big focus of ours.
I agree. So with not statting much on the bench, then basically are you taking the box score at the end of the quarter, end of the half, and looking specifically at that criteria? That's what is jumping off the page to you, so to speak?
Yes. So I think, looking at that, I mean, obviously we'll look at field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage. But I don't feel like our games are super fast paced. So it's not as if we don't really recall what's going on. I know, obviously, especially at the D1 level or the higher levels, especially with offenses that are really prolific and go, it's hard to really keep track. But for us, just little cues, something that jumps out more so than anything super specific. Now, on our defensive side, one of our assistants will focus on the defense for us. So we'll know that right away. We'll know missed blockouts, we'll know missed rebounding opportunities, we'll know 50-50s. So, I mean, he'll have that or she'll have that, and then we adjust accordingly. But those hustle plays, they'll speak with each student athlete as they walk off, give them a little heads up, boom, and then they know what to do going back in the game.
Love it. And in this game, like for instance, you're up 10 at the half.
Yep.
Give us some insight as to what a halftime speech looks like for Coach Plefka when he's up 10 at the half. Like, how are you talking to your girls about keeping focus, et cetera? Like, what are the cues, or what are the points of focus that you're bringing up?
The funny thing at Dominican College, and I'm superstitious and paranoid at the same time. So,
all athletes are.
Of course. So our visiting locker room is literally adjacent to their men's locker room. So I'm paranoid like someone's listening during halftime.
Right.
So we moved into like a conference center, which is about 100 feet away, just so I know no one's listening to what we're doing. Now, whether they do or not, I don't know. But a couple years back, we lost. I mean, it's probably on us, but the second half, they came back. They knew everything we were doing. I'm like, something's fishy. Probably was us. But I was like, you know what? This will never happen again. So let's eliminate that. But
You know
being
what I think is funny, like to that element, I'm sorry to jump in there.
yeah,
At my school, often people will leave their stuff up on the board. So
correct.
we
Here
do
too.
home and we do home and homes.
Yep.
So the first time we play you, if you leave your stuff up on the board, the next time I play you, I'm absolutely thinking about what you left on the board. Like I absolutely know what your game plan was, who you're trying to attack, because you've left it up. So I mean, I don't think it's superstitious or silly. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and that's just piggybacking before with scouts. All of our scouts we do on the phone. So we use Fast Model this past year, and I know everyone has different views. Oh, they're on their phone. Kids need to be off their phone. I get it, but we tried it this year because we've gone to opponents, and on the men's side, the men play after us. We have scouts for our men's team.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sorry, I'm giving it to my team, my
Yeah.
men's team, because if you're foolish enough to leave it around, and I'm not searching through lockers. It's not that. It's literally like right on the floor. Like, I'm sorry. If you're that reckless that you don't care about your scout, then I'm going to do it, man. I'm sorry. This is the name of the game. We're trying to gain an advantage. So scouts, we did all on our phones, video, synergy linked. I thought it helped too. But you're right about that. The 10 points, I'd rather be up 10 than down 10. I know the underdog mentality is great, but it's tough sometimes to be away and be down 10. The first 2 to 3 minutes, especially playing quarters, are vital. You really got to cut that in half. But if you're down 15, now it's a true uphill battle. Being on the road and a tougher place to play, they have a good turnout fan wise. So I'd rather be up 10 than be kind of behind 10.
Yeah, and of course, like this is pre-pandemic, so there are crowds there, and that makes a difference for sure.
Correct.
So, in terms of in the locker room, you did mention you were going to the other spot. I'm sorry, what specifically were you saying to keep them focused? What were the goals coming out? And then we'll jump into some video.
Right. I really think it's reinforcing where we're at. Yes, we're thankful to be up 10 points, but especially in that moment and being up, you can get full of yourself. And that's something like, oh man, we're dominating them. There's no way they're going to beat us. But keeping our players humble is so important. And I humble them all the time and they humble me, which is great. But I truly feel that's important. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be excited and motivated to play, but you have to understand who the opponent is.
Right.
I always preface it. I say, regardless if we're playing a team that we're up by a lot or down by a lot, they're going to make a run sooner or later. They may have made it already, but this is a game of runs. It's going to happen. So what we need to do is hone down, especially the first 2 to 3 minutes in this quarter, and really set the tone for the second half.
Right.
And it really comes down to our routine too. I'm big on routine, and I've seen many teams be extremely lax in their warm-ups. It may work, but I'm more of the opposite. I don't want you being so focused where it's military like Coach Knight. I saw the chat. We're not like to that degree, but you have to be locked in at what your goal is for that day. And the second half warm-ups, I think, are huge, because if you go into the second half just going through the motions, oh yeah, I feel good, bam, you get jumped on, now you're in trouble. So you have to think about not only a mindset, but how you prepared for that second half. And I just like keeping things consistent that way.
Love it. I'm going to jump into a bit of video. If any coaches have some questions, please feel free to jump in while I get set up here. So I got some stuff in here that I pulled from the game. Let me just get this panel going. And I mean, I know the format, but basically just what do you see? What were you thinking? All that kind of stuff. Just doing a film session with Coach here. Basically is what it comes down to. So the first one is early in the game. They miss a shot. You guys bust out in transition. And I believe this is the set of theirs that I like that they ran a few times in this game. So it almost takes the orientation of a stack or a Spain set. Sorry, it's a stack or Spain set of you guys. Excuse me. And so your girl from the nail busts out to the side. And You make the pass there, you get the back screen into the ball screen action. And on this particular one, I believe she hits the corner for a drive and kick action where you missed the layup. But I've pulled this set, I think, 2 or 3 times in it because you get various options out of it. But if you can give me a rundown, sort of what the teaching points are, the multiple options, how you feel about it, excuse me.
Yeah, once again, that I didn't create any of these. That's from Texas Tech, the men's side, of course. I'm a homer playing there. So I saw it that year, and Jarrett Culver would run it. He'd be at the bottom, or they put Mooney at the bottom. And I was like, you know what? I'd like to utilize our stretch 4, which is Taylor Williams, who just got that ball, number 32, who's dynamic from the outside and the inside. So that stack set just to create a little bit of an opportunity for her to not only take advantage of her defender, but also I literally did it. I think the first set every game, so I can see what their pick and roll coverage is. Are they going to switch all? What are they going to do? So I can really do it just to tell exactly what their philosophy is that day. So, but the premise of it, just a kick, boom, back screen, and a pick and roll. Obviously, our post I didn't set a really good screen, but it is what it is in that regard. And I think we had a baseline drive opportunity out of it. So stack, first set of the game, we did that once again. Like I swear, every game, if they're playing man, just to see what their coverages are right away.
So on the penetration, quick question for you. Is it a penetration principle for your wing to duck in as she does here, and for your girl who's on the block to seal? Is that something that you teach, or is this just kind of good gamesmanship to find position there?
Yeah, so on our baseline drives, it's finding those openings within the paint area for our posts. And I'm not sure exactly who was on the right side. I couldn't see with the screen. I think it's number 33, Sheree, is one of our great slashers. So she's a baseline driver, boom. But just awareness. And with Taylor, who missed that layup, she's been there with us for 4 years. She understands her role really well. She's now my grad assistant, or our grad assistant, excuse me. So she knows how to create space. So that's more on the backside with her, is just positioning and just having a high IQ. So I'll give her the props of doing that spontaneously. But Ty, who was our other post on the strong side block, that's kind of what we do. We rise up a little bit on those baseline drives.
Love it. This one is a 2-3 of yours in transition. So you fall back into your 2-3. I was just wanting to talk a little bit about like the premise of how you play it, the rotations. There's about 3 clips in a row that are your 2-3 here. So we'll see some different looks, where you bump from, what you see when you look at it, all that fun stuff. I'll start it again. Sorry.
Sure. Now, we first and foremost, we usually have the top of our zone pick up 94 feet. So as you can see, the top, who is Hannah, who's not right now, where the CACC sign is at the top of the key, she picks up, whether it's aggressive, whether it's soft, whether it's full contain. It just depends upon the game. But we want to always keep that available just so that point guard knows what we're about. So right there, yeah, just rewind that a little bit right there. I was pretty good by them.
So for anybody who's listening, they get after the reversal, they get a nail touch and then get a back cut on the help side to the basket for the layup. So one thing I struggle with, and I have this debate often with a lot of people, is to what degree do you want to cover the nail, and to what degree do you want to drop in the backside?
Correct. Right. So if you pause it a little bit earlier, so with this specific play or action that they're running, so how we do this, and I think I've seen I think Boston College, the men saw it this year, that they're doing similar. When the ball is thrown into the free throw line area, it now becomes man. So we're in an ISO situation. So, and I don't know if they got that from us, probably not, but
very possible.
No chance. That'd be hilarious. But no, we're in an ISO. So now everyone matches up. So we're not digging down. We never dig down, because if it's 2 of our players guarding 1, we're going to give up a 3-point opportunity. But in this instance, it's an ISO. So you're literally dead in front of your offensive player. Now it may change, but here our backside wing, she should be flattening out down towards the block so she doesn't get backdoor cutted. And now we're daring that wing, who makes that nice little pocket pass there, daring her to shoot over our post. So that's what we do. Free throw line area, block area, it goes into an immediate ISO man, and now we're in man for the rest of that possession.
So that'll shape obviously the commentary for the next two clips. But in an ideal world, the center of your 2-3 should be picking up one-on-one here. The girl that's at the nail above the player should be going to the left slot.
Correct.
And the girl who gets back cut should not be getting back cut. She should be putting a butt into or turning and blocking off the cut in an ideal world.
Yes, and if she was on the block, then this doesn't even occur. And now you force, I think it's their 3 who got the ball in the free throw line area to go over our post. So we'll play those odds all day, especially from the mid range.
Right. So this is another one, 2-3 rotations. This is out of transition as well. I'll just kind of give it a talk through for anybody who's listening. Basically, it's just a right slot pass into the high post area where your center is forced to step up and guard, and she ends up knocking down this jump shot. So the reason I included this one, I mean, obviously you've kind of talked through what your premise would be, but our mutual friend, Jimmy, and I have had a debate often about how good of a shot this actually is, and if you can beat a team long-term throughout the game by shooting it. I'm sort of wondering what your philosophy is on it, how much you want to deny, take away, turn that player into a passer, versus how much you're willing to give away from that range.
Right. And the premise, like for this here and how we've made adjustments, I think it's helped so much being on Rising Coaches since March, because when this wouldn't occur in how we would play our defense this year. So, and that's just from learning from you guys, you know, and having different eyes where we'd go into a 2-1-2 look if there's someone in the middle. So the top of our zone, which is our player who's on the left, the kind of 3-point line on the strong side, she would be right in the middle, in front of the shooter. So that was the adjustment we make. So we'll go from it's actually a 3-2 look into a 2-1-2. If it's a two guard front or 2 guard slot area. But with this, we are just slow at it. And our weak side wing is literally in no man's land. She's just chilling. She's pointing, but this is just a broken play. They win, and we just kind of fight for another set. So, but yeah, they did a good job of pushing in transition. 22 seconds, they scored in 8 seconds. And we'll give this, to your question to start, I'll play the odds all day with this shot with anyone that we have. Any opponent, if you beat us, if you hit that 10 times in a row, I think literally only maybe once in my experience that we gave up this mid-range shot that a player truly dominated us and changed the game. But she was also in a different conference, player of the year 2 years in a row. So that's a special type of player to be consistent from the mid-range.
It's interesting because, like, from an eye test and from when I played, you know, way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. I mean, I was a high school player. I didn't get into the college level such as yourself, but like this visually looked like the way to beat a zone. And then when you look at the numbers, it just analytically isn't. Like it's really hard to argue with the numbers. When you look at it, you're like, yeah, but it's an open shot. It's at the free throw line. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't win though. Over the course of the game, it doesn't. Like, so it's a tricky one for me because it's almost as if what I'm seeing when I watch it is in direct dispute with what the numbers are telling me.
Right. And once again, if you have that upper echelon type of player that can really hit it consistently, of course you'll have to adjust. But as a whole, I think it's very, very tough to be consistent from the mid-range. And that's why we force teams into doing that. If you want to beat us, you know, shooting twos the entire time, you can go right ahead. And now if it's a different level, it may be different. I get that. But our niche at our level, it's going to be very difficult for you to shoot mid-range shots and beat us in a game. If you beat us once, I guarantee it's not going to be the second time. Right. So that's kind of our philosophy or mindset on that.
And then I've got one more clip just on 2-3 rotations. You're already you missed a shot. They bust out in transition. So you fall back into it. You do pick it up a little bit higher here. But after the penetration on the right side from the right corner, they swing the ball up top.
Yep.
And get some high-low action into the low post. She doesn't make the shot. I believe it results in a foul call.
Yep.
I'm just kind of wondering what would be ideal rotations to take this away for you.
Sure. So once the ball's passed to the top of the key, we're back in our normal kind of 3-2 look. So
Right.
that would be now, I mean, the post, who's pretty much in no man's land towards the door over there, kind of the strong side-ish, she would be on top of that post player. So as the ball is passed to the top of the key, she has to sprint over the top of that post and in essence front that post, just to eliminate this opportunity. I think she got caught by not recovering too quickly or quickly enough from the guard in the corner, which got her off. As you can see, she's kind of just slow, and it got us off, and that's why they got this opportunity.
Right. Like it. And just for clarification, sorry, I've put in 2 of the 3 of them. You're in the 2-3. You're actually in the 3-2. Excuse me for that.
Yeah, so that's why that's why there's different things, like, and that's why we call it zone, because
Right.
there's 3-2 principles, there's 2-3 principles, there's man principles,
And
there's
it does morph
2-on-2.
between. I
So
could
it's
see it, but what I thought was happening personally was that some of the girls were so high on their
yes,
4 out 1 in that it was just morphing your 2-3. But
exactly.
I can see what you're saying now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so and that's teams. I mean, they did a good job of the spacing aspect of it too. But no, yeah, we got caught right there in the recovery, and that was one of our freshmen who did phenomenally last year. It's just she was trying to, I think she got caught up one step, too slow, and bam, they got the opportunity.
Right. So we've got press break stuff.
Yeah.
I noticed for your press break, keep all 5 girls in what would be your backcourt as you're attacking.
Yep.
This one is also pretty cool because it gets into they're playing a zone and they're like they fall back from their 1-2-2 into a zone. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was a 3-2 on this clip. But you attack it with horns, which is something that I've seen a couple coaches in my conference do, but I don't see it done often. So I was wondering if maybe you could take us through after the press part, take us through sort of the concept of attacking the zone with horns.
For sure, for sure. And horns was kind of our main quote unquote offense, just because we had a stretch 4 in a very skilled 5. And that's kind of what fit us well. We weren't too much of a motion team, just because it was tough for us to truly read the defense consistently. So this is just our normal horns play. I don't remember exactly what the call is. I think we changed it, just kind of a down action. And we knew we could take advantage of this. I know she missed that opportunity, but this is an easy opportunity for us. So quick outlet to our stretch 4, number 32 here on the was it the weak side block or weak side elbow, and then we get it back to our 5. So, but horns, yeah, right here. If you just stop it, one-on-one, we'll take our player one-on-one all day. And of course, if she's not open, the strong side corner is a 3-point opportunity right away.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think it's very interesting. Like, so in my conference, there's one coach who uses both horns and a 1-4 high alignment to go against a 2-3 and a 3-2. This is kind of more of a 3-2, I would say here. But it creates some interesting splits, right? Like you said, you got your girl playing one-on-one on the low block and you got the open 3. But I also think that you have the skip and the reverse pass to the other slot. Like it just really forces them to collapse and get you some open 3s. It's something that I had never thought of before last season, and I liked it. It's interesting to see it.
Yeah, and it's important for us to have spacing. I think that's something that's important. I learned that from Coach Knight, because right here, you can, if you just rewind it kind of like one hot second before in the half court for our offense, he truly, I mean, spacing is everything. And regardless of how successful you are as a team, I mean, we're pretty much spaced out to the max. I mean, obviously, if our strong side wing in the corner, if she's a couple steps to her right, but that creates a lot of issues for the defense. Spacing is so very important. And what this did for us, is give an opportunity, one, with our post, but also two, as you said, you can have a kick out to the corner, a reverse to the slot. But also that initial outlet pass to our stretch 4, who's arguably our best player, that caused the issue at the elbow area because they're so focused on her that it opens up everyone else. And that's the great thing about having a true scorer from the 4 position. They're going to focus on her, whether they kind of dig down from the top of the key or not. And that's going to leave someone open that hopefully can take advantage of the opportunity.
Like it. And then in terms of breaking the press,
Sure.
what are your concepts? Like just basically get it to a wing and attack, or like what are you trying to do? What's the goal?
Simple. We're just trying to be as simplistic as possible. Get that ball over half court as quickly as we can, and then we just roll. I think that's something. We don't really have a press break where we're trying to score every time. I just don't think we were fast enough last year to really put that in. So our goal was literally to get in our half court offense. I know, what is there, 21 seconds on the shot clock when we took 9 seconds. That's plenty of time for us to get into our offense and roll through it.
Love it. I think we got a question in the chat. Let me just bring that up real quick. James, go ahead.
Yeah. So on the press break, so the 5 in the backcourt that's not by design, or is that by design?
Rewind that a little bit, a hot second. Let me check it out. So it's a 4 across set. So our 5 right in the middle now.
Mm-hmm.
By design, yes. So the strong side elbow, who would be on the NCAA side, she'll dive right to that open area, and then the 5 will go. So it's almost just like a diagonal type of action, just so we can get whether it's a 5 or whether it's a 4 in the middle of that area, just to be an outlet. And I think just finding the soft spot. I didn't want to confuse them too much with a crazy press breaker that, oh, but coach this, that. Let's keep it simplistic. We knew what they were going to run in this 1-2-2, and they would run it at various times throughout games. It wouldn't be a staple of theirs, but if they were behind, boom, they're going into it. And we knew that this press break would just get us into our flow of our offense. I know they tried the trap there, but it was just more of just getting that ball in.
Appreciate
it. This is one of their baseline out of bounds that turns into a mid ball screen action. So for anybody who's listening, let me start it again. It's a 1-4 alignment, low. There's a cross screen action. They end up inbounding it to the right slot, the offensive right slot. And then that ends up just basically with a pick and roll action that could be roll replace if you wanted, but like basically the screener's diving and you've got somebody on the opposite block. So they're rolling to open space. And when they are rolling to open space, I would say that your tag is probably a little bit late. I was wondering if you typically would play this with 2. Mm-hmm. And I also found it interesting. I was going to ask you if this even really makes your scout, because there is so little pick and roll action in this game by them. I was wondering if it was something that you focus on at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that we did poorly in this, but it really didn't garner too much attention for us, just because of, one, it being, blob defense, but 2, I mean, it started by going through a screen, which is something we don't do. Right there, bam, right? You went through it. And I know it worked out to start, but in actuality, it didn't. So in this instance, it wouldn't have made our scout per se, just because I know, especially when we run our quote unquote zone, it eliminates their pick and roll actions. A lot of teams that are truly pick and roll focused, they'll still try, but it gets them out of their rhythm. And here we just did a lot of things poorly, unfortunately. And like you said, the tag was late and they got a wide open opportunity. And it's more a communication issue, I would say, by our post. And that's something we really struggled with last year and we're hoping to improve upon this year. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on here that wasn't good at all.
So I got a couple questions about this. Sure. First, in terms of this pick and roll, right? So I've heard this referred to as being the spread pick and roll. Spread pick and roll to me is when the girl who's in the opposite short corner is actually out, and this would be going towards the double side. Mm-hmm. But okay, fine. If we call it spread, no problem. But once we get into this pick and roll, would you normally be tagging from this girl who is in the opposite short corner, or would you tag from what would be the original strong side person who's guarding the shake on this roll?
Where is that my arrow?
That's
where your arrow is, yes, from that strong side. Just because we've had opportunities where we'll try to tag from the weak side and it would be dump down city. Boom, dump down. So number where she's at the weak side block right there. And that number, I can't think of her number. She graduated last year, 55, 33, something like that. Legit, like she'll hunt that soft spot and score all day long. So I would more so it would be the strong side wing that would tag through. But usually what our philosophy is a switch. It's a switch action here on this pick and roll. And we didn't switch. And if we tried to, I think our post, who's now trying to rise up, wanted to switch, but it's just that lack of communication, and boom, that's where we went wrong. So we would switch that top of the key. First and foremost, because their primary ball handler now is a 3-point shooter who can shoot from anywhere. So that's where we got in trouble. But if we do obviously tag, it would be from the weak side for sure.
Interesting. Love it. Said I like attacking their aggressive switch. So on this one, you guys are in transition. If I remember correctly, they end up actually forcing you almost all the way out to half court.
Yep.
And it's to be perfectly honest with you, it's almost not a switch. It's almost like a very delayed hedge and recover. But this is the same set that I mentioned earlier that I like, that you mentioned, you guys use a lot. This is the back screen to ball screen action. And on this, they jump out. They really, really like, it's initially a switch. They drive her right up the court.
Yep.
And then she comes back and uses the ball screen again, gets to her left hand, ends up with a little drive and kick. They help off ball side, and you guys end up with a wide open three. Mm-hmm. So my question to it was, do you have something that's sort of a package for attacking hard hedging? Mm-hmm. And, how do you feel they did in terms of being able to handle the pressure here from your concepts?
Right. I personally think this coverage, this hard hedge that they did, this played into our hands. And I just don't think our player recognized it, because that hard hedge, and she stayed on her kind of almost like a pseudo switch, like a little bit. It's a 4 for them, but she's not very quick of feet. Now, she did a really good job in pushing our player out towards half court. But if I'm playing odds, we probably should have just spread out here and did an ISO 1-on-1 so she can take advantage of this. Because once our player number 32, if she gets one step on this defender, it's over. It's going to be a layup all day. But she did a really great job of defending. So, and right there, the help that came from the opposite post really kind of stymied our drive. But that attacking kick, we work on attacking kicks daily. So as opposed to forcing up a really contested layup there, even though she was slightly guarded in the corner, maybe a little bit more, we'll take that all day with a 3-point shooter that we had, number 3, knockdown 3-point shooter.
Like it. Moving on. This was the blob to end the quarter that we were talking about.
Yep.
So this is just a steal of a possession. Basically, you guys are down 2 points. There's 2.5 seconds left. It's your ball. It's the end of the first quarter, actually. I think it's quarter, and it's just like a 3 across formation that just pins everybody down, and bang, open 3. Like it. Yeah. Simple. Nothing to it.
Yeah. So, and with that, sorry to cut you off. The reason why I feel like that was successful in this sense, I thought it was the third quarter, I guess it was first, is because the majority of our blob actions are dives to the hoop or something of that nature. So here they know that something is going towards the hoop. So right. I really knew from our scout, and our staff knew, okay, they're going to sag off and try to protect the rim. So I knew if we did this, they'd have no idea what's going on. They'd be like, wait, something's going to happen towards the rim.
Right.
So that's why this was called. And, thankfully she knocked that shot down. I know they pushed us out a little bit, but we'll take a wide open 3 for the most part. Boom. And just, switching that momentum really, really quickly at the end of the quarter.
Love it. And you can see from the way they aligned that they are exactly expecting what you're saying. They're thinking somebody is going to slip out and go to the basket, and it just ends up being like an elevator screen with 3 people type deal, and pull it. Did you have this one as one of your repertoire of baseline out of bounds, or if I remember correctly, this is an ATO? Did you just put it in right there? I think I got something. Let's try it out.
This was just a special situation play. It wasn't something that was in our 5 or 6 kind of blobs that we always used. So once again, I saw it during a game. I was like, oh, okay, let's see if this will work. And I just knew through that scout, it's like, I know they're going to try to take everything away from the basket. They're going to bump us. They're going to push us out. It's like, we're not going to be very successful with our normal blob plays. So with this, our number 32, we knew in our preparation before in the practices, we were like, this is going to happen at some point during the game, and just be ready. So got this. So I knew here, I was like, they're on their heels. Let's try this out. We used it a couple other games. Maybe 3 times throughout the whole year. But it was successful. I'd say 2 out of 3. Another time she hit another 3 too. So just playing off the defense and just really, heads up play by her to knock down that shot.
Love it. This is one more. This is against your zone, your 2-3/3-2, 3-2 at this point.
Yeah.
And this, I call this a Butler cut. So I'll play it through one time. You can take a look at it, but basically it's a point or a slot to wing pass. And then that person in the slot cuts through to the ball side corner, which kind of deforms the zone a little bit. And at the same time that happens, they rise from the opposite post to get like a high-low type action.
Correct.
And again, at the same time that happens, the person who was on the original ball side corner moves to the new help side corner, and it puts your center player, your low player that was originally on the weak side, in a real difficult position, having to guard 2. In this particular one, you end up giving up that jump shot sort of from the elbow, which we talked about you're okay with. I think there's actually one more, if I'm not mistaken, where they run the exact same action with that Butler cut to the corner, where they end up getting that high-low pass underneath. They don't make the layup, but they draw the foul. So I would imagine this was something they sort of put in just for this game.
Yep.
How did you react to it? What were your thoughts when you were seeing it?
The first time it happened, I'm like, how the hell did they get that wide open shot? And I think it's so simplistic, but it's something they didn't run in the first game. So I'm like, okay, let's try to figure this out. And the biggest adjustment here would be our top of the key player, who's in no man's land again. So ideally with this occurring, once they're having like a pseudo 2-guard front in a way, even though it's a little extended.
Yeah.
Our top of the key player, which would be number 5, we need her to drop pretty much right to that elbow area of the strong side, just so she can even put her hand in the passing lane. So this pass made to the post player in the paint is not as easy as it is here. So we try to communicate, we're pointing, but they just did a really, really good job of keeping it simplistic and getting an open opportunity and making this mid-range shot.
Love it. It's a difficult action to guard.
Yeah.
I think the thing that makes it really tricky is the girl who starts ball side short corner and then moves to the opposite block.
Yes.
We call this mashing or Gretzkying in Canada, where you pull underneath, but it makes, there's a split on the backside, right? So this girl of yours who is guarding 2, and then this girl who's started in the center, or like I guess she's not really in the center, who started at the bottom weak side, is now caught between challenging the shot and the person who's pulled under. So it makes it tricky. It's definitely hard.
It does. And we would go into an ISO here, but they did it so quickly that, obviously they took advantage of it. But luckily our backside wing, she tried to get there in that split. But once again, that's why I tell our team all the time, when they have a really good play, you just got to tip your hat to them. I know we don't wear hats when we play, tip your mask sometimes now. But they're going to beat us. We're going to beat them. But when they do something successful, be like, man, that was really good. Give them their props, and then we move on to the next play. So this is a great job by them, taking advantage of that opportunity.
For sure. This was a play of you attacking what was drop coverage by them, which again, like I said, there wasn't very much screen and roll by either team in this game. This was a very interesting action, I thought, of just attacking and snaking through, getting all the way to the basket. Do you work on this a lot? How did you feel? Were you a happy coach at this moment type deal? And were you surprised that they had moved into drop coverage at this point?
I was surprised. And I think because Taylor, number 32, was so dynamic, we got her from a JUCO up in Michigan, Macomb, who's really, really, really good. This action here, we do work on snakes, but not too much per se. This is just her reading the defense, snaking over, and finishing opposite foot, bam. So that's just a testament to her and how her IQ was. But I was thankful that they did have that drop, because once again, if you rewind a little bit, when we saw the clip early on with her being pushed out, she's
Mhm.
now on, that same defender in the drop. So this is where I'm like, we have to take advantage of her. So you see this in her drop coverage being terrible, quite frankly, but clip 4 before this, she's really aggressive in an aggressive man-to-man boom, trying to push our player out. So this is what we envisioned that player being on defense, and
Mhm.
that's why we took advantage of it, and she did. So maybe it was an anomaly because of her defense was so good and pushing us out that first possession. But here we knew this is what her defense would be like, not necessarily a drop coverage, but how she is as an on-ball defender, and our player took advantage of it.
So what is your philosophy on this? Is a little bit of an aside, I suppose, but
Yeah.
if you see something like this and you see the coverage that gives your players like a real tremendous advantage, what is your philosophy on going back to that action until they can guard it, like just repeatedly hammering it down their throat?
All
Are you
day.
somebody?
Yeah, and that's why we ran that stack play. We've ran stack plays or our stack 5 times in a row for the same player. Or we'll run the same stack action, which is the basic part of it, like we've seen, back screen, pick and roll. We'll do it as an ISO. So I'll call our play call out. We'll give it for someone else because I know that person could just ISO from the wing, rip and go, bam, bucket all day, or rip and go, attack and kick.
Right.
So that stack play, it creates a lot of issues for teams if there's a liability, and we focus on that. That's in our scout as well. Who is the liability on defense in their man? So if we find the weak link, the luxury that we had this season was that we pretty much had, I'd say, 80% of the team take someone off the dribble all day. And nothing crazy with 17 dribble moves. It's a quick jab, bam, go to the rack. So with this, we knew that was an opportunity to take advantage of. So once again, we'll run stack 5-6 plays in a row if it's successful. And when you have a multi-dimensional player like number 32, if you sag off too much, she'll pull it from the outside. So she can drive, as you can see by this snake dribble, taking it to the rack with kind of the opposite foot. And she hits a 3 early on in the first quarter from one step behind the 3. That creates a lot of issues in trying to pick and choose what you want to do against her and some of the other players.
For sure. This one is a really interesting one to me. This is you guys are in your 3-2, and they run what I actually have run this set a couple times as a quick hitter.
Yep.
I call it uptown basically. So all they do is they make a pass to the right wing, get it back to the point. They make a pass to the left wing. And then once that happens, this player that is on, the left wing, the top of the 3-2 gets split by their 4 and 5, where they cross and they both screen out, creating kind of a gap for this player to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, she misses the shot terribly, but this is good action. I think I saw it 2 or 3 times in the game. How would you defend this in an ideal world? And did you sort of tip your hat, or did it make your scout?
It made our scout. So we went over this, and I think it's our top of the key player, and it's we actually name our locations or spots on the floor, and we named it Debo last year. Rest in peace to Debo, just because that person will literally pick up 94 feet and literally be that type of
it's my bike.
Yeah,
what they're saying. It's my bike.
It's my bike. Yep, and that's what we want. But here, our strong side wing went over the top. I know she got smoked by the screen, but the top of the key has to be on top of her defender. And I think she gets stuck by a pseudo screen. I just didn't think she saw that screen come per se, or she's, I think her leg is stuck per se, right? Her right leg gets stuck.
I think she just doesn't get over it.
Yeah, just fight over the top quick. But in this instance, the roller who just set the initial ball screen will get taken by the strong side post. And with this here, the driver, we're pretty much set up in a way that we can handle it, but it did distort us a lot by getting hit by the screen. And that's something that's important. We have to go over the top of screens aggressively. You get hit by it, we're in big, big trouble. So here, once again, we tipped our cap because they really kind of got us caught off guard because they didn't run it the whole first half, and we were waiting for it, but it starts the quarter. We're not expecting it. tipped her hat to him. And thankfully, she missed a floating layup. But that's her shot, that floater. But she's not very successful with it consistently. So it did surprise us. They did get the advantage, but it played in our hands, thankfully, that she tried to do a running floater and threw it out of bounds.
Yeah, your bottom defender does actually look like she gets a little bit of a piece. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But, what can you do?
But we'll give it that. And that's something I think. Is there another clip of the same play later on, or is this the only one they got?
I know they ran it one more time, but I think I only pulled the one clip.
Yeah, and they're looking, they look for a right-hand drive for number 11. That was their focus. So, I mean, once again, if we'll play some odds of the floater in the mid-range all day with her, even though that's something she likes to do, it's a very tough shot to be consistent with. But I'll give it to them. That was a very good job by them, kind of sneaking us to start the quarter.
I like the action a lot. There's a similar one that I've heard referred, like I call that uptown. I've heard it referred to as downtown, where they do the same action on the two bottom defenders, and then you have somebody sneak in from the short corner for a lob, and it's devastating when it goes down. You're like, how did that happen? That wasn't supposed to happen. This is the same action from the set that I like for you guys, where you you don't actually start in the stack, but it's the same idea of your player popping to the corner, and then you get back screen, ball screen happening. So like a chin screen into the ball screen. And when that is happening, instead of clearing out this time, you guys actually really do turn it into Spain or stack pick and roll, which I really liked. I thought that was neat. So give me the guidelines on what you see and how often you run it, and sort of what the teaching points or cues are on this one. This is great action, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is something that was successful. And as I mentioned with our stack play, it's not just for one particular player. I think that's why they did that little baby handoff, just because we wanted 33 to have the ball and be the primary ball handler. But we knew here that drop covers this second half. They're going to do a little bit of the drop. And our post, number 30 right here, so she sets the initial ball screen. We knew they were going to shade towards 33 and 32, which are on paper our leading scorers. So 33 drove to her right side. They know where 32 is at all points of the game. So this action here with that kind of pseudo Spain, we just wanted our number 30, which is the post player, just to find a soft spot. That's all we wanted her to do. Just not really do anything crazy. Set your pick and roll. She was almost trying to maybe post up in the mid, kind of the restricted area way, but she's a high IQ player, kind of bumped off that, boom, and found this open spot. So that's where I think it's her in the IQ aspect of it. But the Spain action, we want to do a lot more of that this year, because it distorts that defense, and it really puts a huge onus on them communicating, because first and foremost, back screens and flare screens are the most lethal by far within the game, I think, because you've been hit by a screen more times than not, and I know I have. When you get hit by one, you don't know it's coming. You ask for, like, why didn't you communicate? Be like, I didn't know it was coming either. So it creates a lot of indecision in that.
John, with respect, you and I getting hit are not the same thing. I'm a 6'1" guard. You're a 6'9" big guy. So it's guys like you that were ending my life out there a lot of the time. So
I think I missed more screens than I actually performed. So
I hear you. I would have loved to have seen this dropped off here when she gets this deep.
Right.
It creates a lovely split on their number 15, and it's a hard read, but if she manages to just rip the ball center and drop it off, I think you got a freebie right there.
Oh, easy. 2 points, boom. I think that's something right there. And she's a lefty too, so she was obviously driving to her right, which is uncomfortable for her. So it should have been easy dump off. But I would assume in her mind, the kind of trap that the trap they did right there kind of got her. And then by that time we were in trouble.
And so Mike just asks, what are your screening cues? And I would assume he would mean not just on the initial at this point right here with the ball screen,
right?
But I would assume that he would also mean within the Spain element of it as well, in terms of finding the right person, etc.
Right. And it would depend upon our personnel. So number 30 was always a roller. So we kept it simplistic. So 30 setting this initial ball screen, back screen, then ball screen. She's a roller no matter what. 32, who got the back screen here and going into the paint area.
Sorry, John, before you get too much into it, I was just going to digress there. I was just meaning, like, in general, your girls, by watching the clips, set really good screens, and some are, whether it's on the ball or then afterwards on a shooter, whether they're hitting the hip or head hunting. What are some of your cues there? Because in general, they're just setting good screens where you're getting open looks. And I think it's the quality of that skill alone within your offense is getting you a lot of good options.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's I think we struggle with screens, but appreciate it. But no, we're attacking the inside shoulder really hard, and that's something back from the Coach Knight days. Just really attacking that inside shoulder, and we've tried different philosophies with that in regards to screenings because it's a neglected part of the game, as you know, as everyone knows on this call. It's very neglected. So attacking that inside shoulder is vital for us. We want to get as close to their body as possible to start. So sprinting to it. Now, we've had many illegal screens and we've had to work on that. But attacking that inside shoulder, boom, and reading off that. So if you see that defender try to go underneath and we have an opportunity for a pop action from 32, can shoot it from the outside, you spin your body around, boom, create that, then the pop comes out of it. So once again, just inside shoulder, nothing too crazy. There's no crazy footwork that we go into it, just keeping it as simplistic as possible for them.
On the simplistic note, do you encourage your girls to go slower when you know a team is going to ice so that they can flip it or do something else?
Yes, we do. So the reading is so important. And with our team this past season, I would say our IQ is really across the board. We've had some super high IQ. We've had some lower IQ, some in the middle. So it really depended upon who we had in the game that we can trust to do that. So that was some of our play calls would play into that. So if we knew one of our backup post players isn't too good of a screener, the stack action may be a little bit more difficult to run. Or if she was didn't set her screens consistently enough where she'd get an offensive foul. So it really would be based specifically to personnel. But here with number 30, who's on the weak side blockish area, the restricted line, she was just a super high IQ player. So she would almost methodically go through her screens, as you can tell throughout all these clips. She would slow down. She's not a sprinter to it. So she's trying to read every single time she's setting a screen, especially in our stack action. So specifically based on who that personnel is.
Love it. Next one is a set I liked, just a stagger away that like turns into a curl like an Iverson cut for a jump shot. So it begins as a horn set, turns into a stagger away as your ball handler brings it to the left slot. She just keeps curling all the way over. You get a good look at it, throw it up. She actually shoots along too. I'd like to see her get behind the line, but give me some of the options out of it if you don't get the shot, and just what you see when you take a look at it.
Yeah, this is just a simple kind of Iverson look to start. Our weak side post went a little too far down on the double, like the stagger down. She should stay at the free throw line-ish area. And it's just another wrinkle out of our horn. So I don't know what exactly I think we called it spin twist. So just spin around, just something simplistic for our players to remember. I think everyone has philosophies on what their play calls are, but we try to keep it as easy for them to remember as possible. So it's just a spin action. We want to initially, so if you go back to that clip, we want to initially get the second person coming off the Iverson. We don't want it to be the first. So as you can see here, if it was a true Iverson, which we got incorrect,
you'd want this girl you're saying right here.
Correct. Yes. So that's what we want, ideally, to come back around. I know we kind of panicked and passed the ball off too quickly, but we've had opportunities in different games where she comes around because they just get confused by that initial spin type of action. Here she was open. I know she's at mid-range. We're in the no man's land. You don't want to shoot a long two, but she was open. She tried to reverse pseudo pivot around, but we want to look for that second person coming off the Iverson.
I've actually heard this referred to as being the 60 series at the pro level. So same idea, just a stagger away and then another stagger for the second cutter. But I like it. Great action. Tip the hat to you, sir. I just wanted to say I got about 5 more clips. I'm just noticing we're a little bit past the hour. I asked you for an hour. Are you still good on time?
Yeah, I'm still good. Yeah, no worries.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So this one is a set alike of theirs. It's a handoff reverse to a step up ball screen.
Mhm.
And then they get the nice back cut out of it. So how would you handle this in terms of watching it and possibly having to play against it again? So like I said, handoff to the right side. Starts basically like a Princeton set, right? Like handoff, the forwards out action, and she doesn't cut through immediately, but then they've turned it into a step up. I think number 3 was supposed to go through, but when they attack your zone, you get the new strong side cut from the corner for the layup action, which unfortunately she misses. Fortunately for you,
Thankfully, yeah, right. No, this is a really good set by them, and the dribble handoff action. We knew there's going to be dribble handoff actions coming, and I think we just got. And once again, I think we talked about it earlier, being up 10 at halftime, and now you're up 15 with 3 minutes left. You kind of get complacent, and I try to stress not to. I feel like we just got flat-footed initially on the top of the key. So if you run through it, that dribble handoff and get caught by that screen again. And honestly, I think everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And they put us in a bind on this backside. So we have to take this driver, who's a right-hand driver, number 11. But what I would like to do ideally would be the strong side post who's pointing, just flatten out, just take a couple steps backward, force them into a mid-range shot at that point. That's not her game. So it was effective for them, but here she puts us in a bad situation, a 2-on-1 in front and in the back. And I don't know where our strong side post is going. I don't know why she bit kind of to the opposite side, but that kind of got us in that
I think
instance.
she went for your screener.
Yeah, the screener, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, it's just, yeah, we're out of position. And if our strong side post on that bottom of the 3-2 was squared up, I don't think this kind of bounce pass would have worked, but she got faked out, boom, and they got the opportunity.
We've got one more defending clip. This is one of their baseline out of bounds.
Yep.
It's a 1-4 with just a flex action to it.
Right.
Seen this one a few times. I'm assuming probably makes your scout. How do you think you played it? What would you do differently? All that fun stuff. So I mean, basically for anybody who's listening later on, 1-4 baseline out of bounds, the ball side forward just pops back, and then immediately reverses to the other forward, and then it's just flex screen, pin down screen for the flex action, and they hit the cutter coming off of the flex screen for the layup. They actually get an and one out of it. And I mean, you guys are up significantly at this point, but I'm sure this is still a bit of an eye twitch moment for you.
It is because we went through this, flex actions. Many of the teams run a flex action, whether it's out of bounds or whether it's in their half court offense. But here it's an automatic switch. And this is twice we didn't switch. So automatic switch from the inbounders defender, I believe, to her. So you can't chase. You can't in a flex action. I feel like if you chase, you got to really be aggressive to get on that front hip. She kind of gets behind one set, and we never behind anybody. So we're never locking and trailing just because of this in this instance. So this should have been a switch right away, but also going back to my notes, especially early on from this game, our post player. So if you rewind it like 1 second before, this is a non-shooter that received the initial pass. So our post player who is guarding her on the 3-point line should already be sunk down into the paint area. She's a non-shooter. So this would eliminate it right away. And she tries to, but now she's like, oh, she's in no man's land.
Yeah.
So the number 30 on their team who got the ball, she can't shoot from the outside. She doesn't shoot threes. So why are we guarding her so far out? We need to sink back down. And they just took advantage, had a great cut, got the edge, and boom, and one.
On the pin down part that is forward to guard, ignoring the basket cut and the layup, would you switch to two?
For which player? So
For the pin down that happens in the background here, the girl that you described as a non-shooter, you're good with off ball 1 through 5 as well. Same thing.
Yes, because those are our 4 and 5 right there. So they're interchangeable. So they can both do that. Absolutely. Especially on that off ball there. So that didn't bother us one bit. if we switch there.
Love it. This is another defending play. So what have I got? Let me see my notes. Sorry. Defending the post. It's the early part of the clip here, I believe. Let me run this one through. I'm sorry. My notes are not matching up with what I'm remembering right now.
But also too, the complacency, that we had, we're up 15, now we're only up 3. Things can change in a heartbeat, and it really was the momentum of that the third quarter at the end of it got us. So,
So I know it's wrong comparatively. So there were 2 things in here that I liked that I wanted to ask you about. The first thing was you guys go to defend the post on the defensive end here.
Yep.
And the girl that's like on the nail in the high post area, she just basket cuts, gets a pretty good open look at it. She misses the layup, fortunately. I was wondering sort of what your post actions are off ball when you double.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second half of the clip is a really nice elevator type set that you run. I'll stop it here and we ask the first part and then go through the second part after.
So we don't double at all. That's the crazy thing. It's especially in the post, it's a one-on-one. So it's you versus them. So here our 5 kind of tries to dig down with her hand a little bit for whatever reason. I think she's just out of position. But we do not double whatsoever in our zone. Reason being is that we've tried to, and the skip to the weak side is always open. We're done just because we lose sight. And you may not think that, but how rotations go and et cetera, we always get caught off guard. So we try to play a one-on-one in the post area if that ball is outletted to the block. And why? If you have a dominant post, especially at our level, they're few and far between. So we're going to, once again, play our odds. We're going to play sound, solid, aggressive, post defense, try to make you throw it, shoot it over the top of us. We're not giving you an angle, and we're going to play that. So if you get an angle and you beat us, so be it. But our focus is square up, make them shoot over you. They get it. Hey, that's playing into our hands. If not, we're good to go. So she should not have been anywhere near that double right there.
And then, like I said, she misses it. You guys bust out. You call in this elevator set. I was wondering just sort of what the principles are, what the cues are, and what the counter actions are if you don't get the shooter coming up. So you guys are eating a bit of clock. You move to the right wing. Here's your first girl coming through the gate through the elevator. And then it looks like your second girl was coming as well from the other side.
Yes.
You push the one girl through and then the other one is coming. I'm just wondering, is that supposed to happen? What happened there ultimately? And then just for the sake of the clip, she takes it a little bit deeper, makes a pretty hard one on the other side.
Right. So this is kind of a misdirection. So even though we have this set where it's a kind of a double elevator just to kind of create an opportunity for a 3-point shot at the top of the key, this is meant for our primary ball handler in this instance, which is our slasher, to get an open drive kind of with no help, even though there is somewhat of help. Well, now there is because they dropped down. We're just trying to create some misdirection. It wasn't executed as properly as it should have been. We kind of should have waited probably 1 to 2 more seconds for our backside shooter to come through. So it looks jumbled, but this is kind of what we wanted to do to create just a downhill action by our wing or our primary ball handler. But they blew it up. I mean, it worked, but then all of a sudden it was a great play by our slasher. So we'd take that all day.
So in this action, normally when the first girl goes through, does the elevator or the gate open again? And then second girl goes through?
Yes. So there's more timing to it. So ideally this is literally like way too fast. So right when our initial player comes through the elevator, I'd say probably around the restricted area, that's when the second one is triggered to go. So you can see it's just like it's just a misdirection kind of look just to create the defense and put the defense in a bad spot. But if it's jumbled, it doesn't really work. So in this, if our second elevator runner, if she waited once again 3 seconds, I don't think there would have been this help by the strong side post like there is, because she'd be concerned about who's coming to that top of the key.
Right.
So
I like that action. I feel like there's a lot you could do with that action. Like if you send both girls to the other side of the floor, it becomes a double side. There's not really very much help coming. There's a lot of confusion. Stolen, John. I think I like that.
Yeah, but as you could, if you rewind it just like probably like one clip earlier, or not clip, 1 second earlier, excuse me. Our primary ball handler, she needs to look at the elevator. And as you can tell, I know it's good
Right.
defense, but she doesn't look. So that
Right.
that in itself won't trigger the strong side post at the elbow to help at all. So she knows she's driving. So she almost tipped that this plays for her to take it to the rack. So if she just opened up, maybe just kind of a retreat dribble, pull back, just looked at the top of the key area, I don't think in my mind that the strong side post would have been there that easily because she'd be concerned with a 3-point shot.
Right. Like if she's at the angle she is in the clip right here, as opposed to what she is like right here.
Right.
It
So that's
sells
just, yeah. It's a great read by the post. The post knows like there's no way she's going to come back to the top of the key. She's going to drive to the baseline. So,
and then this one was just a horn set. One of the actions that I liked out of it. Nothing too incredibly rare out of it, but basically the girl who enters to your left forward just cuts through and creates a double side on the left side of the floor. You get a pin down from the other forward, and then she comes back and ball screens.
Mhm.
So you get like a forward type action. She pulls up for a mid range. Is there anything else that you would like to see happen? Are you satisfied with the action? Talk to me about the set overall.
I mean, I don't think we screened well at all throughout the entire set. I think that got us because this is predicated on the screening action. I think a little too much playing with the ball at the end of the clip, because if you rewind it like 1 second, she probably could have an easy mid range and right about, or she could have pulled it from 3. I mean, right to, let's see how much right there. She could, bam, it's over. That's our best player, arguably. That should be a 3-point shot, but she's trying to create something that out of nothing in her mind. She's like, oh, I can get downhill. But that initial ball screen and then away screen, it was really successful for us this season. But the rescreen was just improvising her. She's just like, you know what, I'm gonna go set a ball screen for our post player. Let's see what you can do.
Right. And then here's the last one. This is sort of the nail in the coffin type deal, end of the game. You guys are, let me give you the situation here. You are up 4. There's about a minute to go. You go ball screen, which I find interesting because, like I said, there weren't a whole lot in it.
Yep.
And she makes it to put you guys up 7. You end up ultimately winning by 6. So they don't really ever recover from this action.
Mm-hmm.
There's some free throw exchange afterwards. But I'd say this is pretty much the game. So time and score wise, what made you choose this play? And, what are your thoughts sort of like, obviously you want to go deeper in the clock because there's about a minute left in the game and you're up, but like beyond that, what are you sort of conveying to your players? What are you thinking in your mind, all of that?
Yeah, I think, the time and score is so important. And for us being up 5, especially on the road, we weren't going to be super aggressive. I wanted to waste as much clock as we could, but I knew we wanted the ball in her hands. So this was luck, by the way. So
yeah, she called bank. I heard it.
Yeah. So initially, number 32, we wanted it in her hands the whole time, but they did a great job. They kind of did that little kind of double in a way. We wanted just to create an opportunity here, kind of like a step up screen, even though there was no screen set. And we wanted this here. We wanted to turn the corner, but they did a great job in almost trapping it here. So it was just trying to get 32 an open look and try to drive downhill, which she tries to do. A respace by number 1 would have been great at the top of the key, and that could have been a real dagger for a 3 to end it. But here, this was just all luck. It was all luck, and I was way, way thankful that this occurred because the execution was not what we were at by any means. This is a flat screen, we called it. If number 1 respaced or relocated to the top of the key here after the fact, which is what we normally do, even though she's trying to read on this baseline or kind of a drive to the left side, she would have had a wide open 3, but she wanted nothing to do with that. And here just got lucky, and we'll take it all day.
So I have 2 questions. I think the first is it fair to say that in this kind of situation, you want the ball in your best player's hand, so to speak, and let her create type deal?
Absolutely, 100%. Because early on in the season, I didn't do that, and we lost.
I hear you.
And I think it's knowing your personnel and knowing your players first and foremost. and also admitting, to your team when you're wrong. And because that game early on in the year, there's 2 possessions we had, in a player that was successful, but she turned the ball over twice. And then after that, you're thinking, like, what should I do next? Should it be a different play? Should it be the same action?
Right.
And, after speaking, with her as well, and just trying to see the situation play out, she's like, yeah, I want that ball next time. And when you have that dialogue, let's do it. So we'll put it in her hands all day long here. And Sharia, who's our, number 33, hit that bank shot. She's the second player we wanted with the ball too. So it played in our hands that way.
Right.
We'll give it to our main scoring threat, and we'll just let her work. And that's it. And we'll live and die by that. And that's just how we play. But we'll take those odds all day long, unless need be here, where if it's like shot clock running down, we got to kick, and then it's desperation.
And then my last question is your girl that's in the top right corner. So like you're starting on the double side with this action.
Yep.
I'm wondering did you send her through? Did she notice some cue that I don't see to change the double side? Or like what happened there? Why did that cut happen?
Right.
Because I've watched a lot of clips lately about changing the double side.
Yep.
I'm wondering sort of if this is by design or if she just felt like probably better spacing if I get over there. Like, curious to know.
We pushed her out. I think I did, because I knew our spacing was terrible on that side right away. And I knew they did a great job of this on-ball defense. But in my mind, if absolutely necessary, because I knew the shot clock was running down, if we can get a swing, boom, swing to the slot, swing to the corner, because our 3-point shooter who's in the almost strong side corner now, she can knock that down all day. So that's something that we take that option too. But here, that's where she's waiting. That's her shot. She's a corner 3-point shooter. So if we have that as a last resort, hey, we'll take it all day. But ideally, once again, we pushed her to the opposite side, and she's a super high IQ player. So she probably would have done it anyways, but she knows to space the floor out, and to get to her strength, which would be in the corner.
Love it. All right, sir. It's all I got. And if anybody has any questions, I mean, obviously now's a great time. If not, I will wind it down with obviously a giant thank you to you, sir, and the usual shout outs. First of all, obviously I met you through the Rising Coaches Network, so I always like to give a thank you to Rising Coaches for connecting me with other coaches that have the desire to get better, to learn, etc. And then I always like to end with special thanks to all the coaches that are on the call, many of which, like LB, Carolyn, James, Mike, they make it out every week. Trey, second Mike, and Marcus, happy to see you guys here today. And then there's a few others that jump in and out throughout and can make it when they can. But I always like to say like a very big thank you to coaches such as yourself who, first of all, you can manage to listen to me speak for 90 minutes. That's unbelievable. But like, just, thank you for coming out. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, we're fairly locked down up here. Mm-hmm. This show has really allowed me to continue to focus, be around basketball, be around good coaches such as yourself, John. So thank you to you. Thank you to Rising Coaches. Thank you to all the coaches that jump on. Really, really appreciate you guys. It means a lot. Please tune in next week. We will actually have the head of Rising Coaches jumping on. So we'll see if he can actually coach a little bit. I'm going to dig into Adam a little bit and see what his coaching acumen is like at this point after sitting out for a few seasons. So that'll be fun. And, just lastly, again, a super big thank you to you, John. I really appreciate you taking the time, sitting down, sharing what you guys are doing.
No, thank you. And for yourself, and this platform has just been amazing. Especially during this time. I mean, as you said, you're locked down, our season was canceled very early on here this fall. It's an outlet, and I think you have to find little things of hope, glimmers of hope. And this is something too, that to really look back at a game last year that when everything was somewhat normal, to what it is now. And I think it's just the gratitude I have for you and for everyone on this call and Rising Coaches for putting me in this position. And just once again, very thankful for yourself and everyone on this call to listen to me talk for that long too. If you could do that on a Friday of all things, man, hey, you guys are crazy.
we've definitely learned and picked up a few new sets, and really appreciate you for that. I'm going to stop the recording here. A lot of the time, Coach Plefka, like some of the coaches like to hang out and talk for a little bit. So, I mean, feel free, don't feel obliged if you want to hang out. Sometimes they have questions they don't want to ask on camera. But for everybody who's tuned in and listen, I will catch you next week. Thank you again for your continued, not subscription, but like continued following. I really appreciate being able to present this for you guys. Thank you.